good afternoon, everyone. We are very happy to be here with you today, and I can promise you, we have brought you the best of the best. This is going to be an amazing panel. Stick with it, record it, memorize it. It's going to be a great fun. So, well, we are in the midst of what we say, in the midst of Corona. We have, 30 million people already tested. Sadly, close to 1 million people are dead. But what started as a crisis, as a health crisis, is now an economic crisis, and it is clear. We see a lot of us going rapidly to the digital. We're working from home or from wherever, but not from office. We are working remotely. Well, we are all actually keeping the hackers busy and overloaded with work. If you are a hacker, you're waking up this morning and saying, oh my God, this is like a candy store. What do I take first to taste? So vigorously, actively, we field them around the world. 78% of cyber attacks over the last few months were, of course, related to Corona. We're talking about a staggering number of 200,000 weekly. And that would include also websites or emails related with the word Corona or COVID in their domain. 40,000 new domains have recently been opened, but 10% of them are suspected as malicious. So, guys, my esteemed panelists. So, I would like, first of all, you've been introduced, but I will let you introduce yourself a little bit more and really tell us all, where did this pandemic find you? I mean, were you busy in the middle of something? Were you hiking somewhere? Were you skiing somewhere? Please share with us. Amit, please be the first. Go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Tal. Thanks. And I'm sure like me, all of us were busy in various kind of activities related to cybersecurity. I found that in India especially, there were 300% increase in cyber attacks and cyber crimes. So I got lots of investigation work. I got lots of root cause analysis work in such a pandemic. And then it was actually a surprise for me to understand like these hackers and criminals, they are creating very sophisticated attack vectors, especially during lockdown. And not only with social engineering, but how could they actually penetrate to those systems? Those are considered to be highly secure. So that was a learning for me as well. And it was a great learning for sure.
Amit, please share a little bit more about yourself. I mean, you're renowned in India, but we want to, know you a little bit better.
Sure, Tal. So I work closely with all law enforcement agencies in India, like NIA, CBI, and NPA, and BPRND, and NetGrid, etc., and also state police department. So if there is any such critical cybercrime which requires an expertise from an ethical hacker's perspective or a security expert perspective, I get involved and I help them to solve those cases. This is one of my expertise. I also work with Tech Mahindra. I'm heading their red teaming operation here, and that's all.
Thank you.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Jay, how you doing, man?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. How are you?
Perfect. Please share with us. Where were you?
Technology glitches. Cool. So just to give you a bit about myself, today marks actually 12 years since my last Cocoon talk. So I was there in the initial stages of Cocoon when they started off, and it's really good to be back in Cocoon. So about myself, I basically head cybersecurity for AIA. My primary forte would be on cyber defense, threat intelligence, forensics, and that's what I've pretty much been doing for the last 13 years. I've been working with multiple government agencies all the way from the Caribbean to the Pacific to Africa, where I spent at least 4 or 5 years in trying to build national certs, establishing national forensics lab, and at the same time trying to build a national framework for cybersecurity. So over the last 4 months, it's something which everybody can recollect to. It's been hell, frozen over. And to give you how we have been impacted by COVID is my headquarters is based out of Hong Kong, and one half of my cybersecurity operations is based out of China. So we were the first hit when Corona actually came out. So from ground reality to getting it back to operations and running it again, it's been a real challenge.
I'm sure. Thank you for this, Jay. Yair.
Hi. I think I was caught with the corona in a more interesting place. I was on a ski vacation. Then we received the message, when you come home, don't go to work, go home for 2 weeks quarantine, and start operating from home. So we didn't have time to organize. A little bit about myself. I served in the army as an helicopter pilot. Later on, went into computers business, starting as a programmer, R&D manager on a software house, managing a software house, opened an office of myself, a company consulting, and while consulting to the bank recruited me to be the CIO, COO, and cyber security in charge of the bank. So, and last month, I started my own startup, back to the space, Wi-Fi space, cybersecurity Wi-Fi. And regarding Corona, if you want, I can tell you a little bit about organizing.
We will dive to it in a minute, just for people to understand. In Israel, it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter if you have a job. You need to have a startup. It's like you need to have a car. You need to have a startup, and it doesn't matter. So, guys, you all see we have, high foreheads and not a lot of hair. Some of it is because the hard work we had to put throughout Corona. Some of us had to take care of, let's say, hundreds of workers overnight needing to work from home. VPN was not created to hold 100% of our workers from home, maybe 10, maybe 20%. Everything is congested. We know again that we have a lot of unmonitored internet systems. We are not sure about the security patches. I mean, it's a nightmare to all of us. So I would like our esteemed panelists now to really share with us what kind of new threat vectors have you noticed during this pandemic? Amit, go ahead.
Yeah, Tal, it was really interesting to understand these new threat vectors, because traditionally the kind of attack that we have observed were actually exploiting some vulnerabilities of the system, whether it is like either SQL injection or XOR or any such standard IDOR vulnerability that were exploited. But in this time, I have especially observed, like even if an organization is highly secure and sophisticated, these hackers were able to penetrate them because of their third-party or fourth-party vendors' vulnerabilities. So that was really a new thing for me, because earlier we used to think that we just need to focus our risk to our own parameters. But now the risk is there because of our third-party and fourth-party vendors. That we have missed out and we have never thought of it seriously. Especially for a bank, when I was doing an investigation in US, I found like email vulnerability were exploited initially of their law firm from where they were taking services. So basically, the vulnerability was there in the law firm, not in the bank. But then the data from the bank was stolen. So that is something which I have observed first time, and I think it is interesting to prepare ourselves in future, considering these kind of new challenges.
Clear. Jay.
So in my case, what I would say is, from a vector perspective, what we saw was a rise in phishing or spam emails, malicious attachments that were coming disguised in COVID themes. Somewhere around Jan, the flood started, and around till March, June, they were still going in full-fledged. And during that time, one of the usual things is that we didn't see the normal kind of adversaries that you would be expecting from a financial industry acting up, but rather it was more or less like new infrastructures, new players in the market, often people trying their luck disguising as let's say if one of your employee has gotten a COVID positive, we need you to fill in these details, etc. So that was one of the waves that we saw. And towards June, we saw a shift in patterns where we saw a lot more nation state actors coming into play. And one of the interesting things that we did observe, or what I personally saw, is that given that people are now distributed, patching of machines becomes challenging. So pretty much all the Microsoft Tuesday critical vulnerabilities are now being pushed on all over.
Clear. Of course, we would like you guys later to share some tips, what did you really do, if it's okay to share? Yair, you mentioned business continuity and CIO of a bank. How is life during Corona for a bank?
It's challenging, let's say. You know, the basic culture of a bank is everything inside, nothing outside, everything on premise, nothing on the cloud. And suddenly you have to move from working inside your territory outside from home. It seems, you know, if I talk to someone a month before, everyone will tell you you're crazy, it's impossible. But amazingly, people can adjust. And in 2 weeks, we moved from working on premise, working from home. We had a small group that was working at the beginning, you know, technicians and vice president, etc. Suddenly, we have to buy hundreds of laptops, arrange everything, and spread them around Israel. And everyone was doing that, you know. All the banks, all the companies, all the firms, everyone needed the laptop, so there were no laptops left, and we needed to continue working. So we moved into private computers that were working on the same computer on Zoom for school or for playing. You know, the kids were home. Everything was a mess. We have to arrange very quickly, you know, to take care of these home computers. At the beginning, we were spreading VPNs and direct lines, but it wasn't enough because everyone was using that. So we have to move into Wi-Fi and to spread into more security, preventive measurement. And then we didn't have enough of that. So we have to buy from few vendors and to have more specialities. So, you know, it was like a war. Exactly.
Well, let me tell you, the war is ongoing.
Yeah.
And sadly, it ain't changing. It will continue, and it will be fierce. So what you're saying is that if I'm a customer of the bank and I'm used to come to the bank and sign documents and all this, all of a sudden I can come, but you need my signature. So you go digital. So how do you prepare for all of this? I mean, it sounds like a huge infrastructure that needs to be in place overnight.
Yeah, you know, in the banking business, everything is very slow here. So you are starting new ideas and checking them, validating them on your own pace. Everything should be more secure. So everything that was on the labs, everything was very rapid. So we did have something initiatives, but it wasn't on air. So everything was very rapidly growing, and we did everything. As a matter of fact, you can see it's possible. It's possible.
By the way, I just want to say, Jay, I will ask you in a second because your company is one of the biggest in the world for life insurance, and you have tons of documents to sign. Yeah. But just to say that to the startups I work with, and probably there are a lot of startups in the audience. Well, we knew that if I were to reach out to Yair as the CIO of the bank and tell him, listen, I have this new technology, I want you to try it. You know, do a POC. He will say, wait. Slowly, I'm a bank. But what we found that during Corona, all of a sudden, the CIO is very receptive to the problem that he has, and he's willing to take any startup on board and overnight get decisions to implement you. So what I'm saying, sometimes this Corona also offers a lot of opportunity. And it also showed everyone from both sides that when something is needed, there are no hurdles, there are no problems. You just engage if it's not 100% baked. Jay, can you please relate to the same problems that the bank had to endure with the documentation and signature and all that?
True. So within within our company itself, it's fine because we actually did move into digital signatures quite early on. But in terms of working with the customers and collaterals, like what Yahil just said, it is a challenge for us as well. Because when it comes to these kind of things, at the end of the day, you need to get that written signature, no matter how much digital you are trying to evolve into. So that are still there.
Yeah, let me a bit sharpen my question. So if you see, let's say, a problem to deal with the digital signing, when you try to overcome it, do you create a solution that fits all, or do you need to have several solutions to deal with the threats?
So it would be different because about how we are structured, we operate out of 19 different countries. So 19 of them would have different regulatory requirements based on which we can't have a single cut solution for all. Now, most of the ones which can be commonly grouped in together, they would eventually move into one solution, and the others would be different ones.
I see.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution that we can go ahead with.
Clear. Amit, they need, you as an expert, these guys have to deal also a lot with privacy. That's a huge issue. GDPR is all over everyone now. What do you see? How do organizations that you work with deal with it?
So privacy has always been the reason of providing the security, because we want to keep our data private and secure. And especially with these new kind of ransomware attacks, those are actually not only encrypting the data locally, but they are also stealing this data out and making it public eventually to the dark web. I think privacy has become a big concern. If I can give you an example of this recent Cognizant attack, where they lost almost $100 million because of a ransomware called Maze. Their biggest concern was not that the data is encrypted, but the data was leaked outside, and the guy was threatening them, like, if you don't pay me this ransom, we'll make it public. And this data is actually very sensitive, not only from banking perspective, because they have customers all around the world, and they are offering security to other customers. So a company which is offering security services to other customers, if they get hacked, it becomes a much more bigger problem for them. So I think from data privacy perspective worldwide, if I can focus on Indian perspective, India right now is still struggling to have a full-fledged data privacy law. And we don't have that law, though there are standards all around the world, GDPR and then US data privacy acts and bills. But in India, we are yet to have that. And that's why most of these companies are little taking the leverage of it and are relaxed. And that even the data is out because of any reason, they are not penalized. But we are expecting this bill to come soon to the parliament, and probably then we'll be having that sort of regulations and the law and order boundaries for those companies. But if I take this example, because I started with this Cognizant attack, why this attack was successful and how could it happen? I'll just tell you a storyline. Like last year in July, this Mage ransomware was made public on 27th July around. And there were sequence of informations released, warnings, advisories by different companies, including Virus Total and then FBI and then many other organizations all around the world. And there were sequence of attacks. Like on 8th of June, the Mage ransomware attacked a threat intelligence organization. Then they attacked entry agencies. Then they attacked a municipality corporation in US. Then FBI warned something on 2nd of Jan. And then they attacked MD Labs. What I'm trying to say, like, despite of having so many warnings and attacks, all these organizations are not considering this as an input to configure their firewall and systems with that input. When we did the root cause analysis of Cognizant, we found that they have actually not implemented all those IOCs and hash values, because during this all sequence of attacks, same hash values were used of that ransomware, and the source of attack was also more or less same. So if they could have considered that as an input timely, I think they could have protected. So these kind of ignorance is actually becoming a big concern for large organizations, where it was not a 0-day sort of a thing. It has been there. We had enough information to protect us against that.
Okay, thank you, Amit. Yes, yeah. I guess before you answer what you want, I just want to add something to your answer. The bank, seeing the problem you're facing with the corona, did they really allocate more resources? Was more money invested into getting yourself, better secured against those threats coming now?
Of course, now budgets are moving into cybersecurity. We have new vectors of attacks right now. If before everything was, you took care of your employees working on premise, it was more easy. Now it's a zero trust environment because you don't know if your employee is logging into your systems. You can log in from home or from a cafe or from the way, and you don't. And right now, the weak spot is something we call a man in the middle, because someone can come in the middle between the employee or the client and the systems, while in the middle, nobody feels it because the system thinks it's the client or the employee, and the employee thinks he's on the bank. And in the middle, the hacker takes everything. He can put materials on your computer, a ransomware, and then suddenly all of the employees can't work, like it happened in Tower Semiconductors. A supplier was logging into the systems, put in unknowingly a ransomware. Tower Semiconductors were shut down for a few days, every day not working, millions and millions. Eventually they paid. They paid few $100,000 for the ransomware. And now we have two threats. One, not to work, and one, data leaking. The hacker, they say, look, we publish inside information. If you want us to stop, pay us, and then we will release the ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
And something else they are trying to do to damage the backups. First, they damage the backups. Few days, weeks later, when they put on the ransomware, you don't have backups. So you don't have any choice unless to pay. And if we are dealing Corona, I believe it will continue. Like living with Corona, living with cyber, and understanding sometimes you have to pay in order to continue, to pay for your faults, to pay for your mistake, and continue.
Thank you. Well, I know from personal knowledge that your startup, Iris Shield, deals with men in the middle. And I'm happy to say that I know the solution to be very good. Jay, so we all agree that hackers are brilliant people. I mean, they are smarter, like way above average, technologically and psychologically. But I know that when Corona, and it seems to be still here to stay, also creates a situation for our workers when all of a sudden job security is very hard to find. There's a lot of uncertainty. And sometimes workers also get this idea that they need to do something about it and maybe be a little bit harmful to the organization also. What do you know to tell us about it? Did you encounter any such incidents?
So touch wood, we haven't. So insider threat definitely has gone up the risk scale in terms of a CIO's risk mapping. One of the primary reasons being people have a false sense of job security. Some they feel that they might be losing their job tomorrow. B is this is a time when people can take the actual home desktops or laptops back to their own personal homes rather than working it out of the office. And C is this is also the time where people are finding new venues where they can actually start trading or sharing information. A classic example, which I've seen in this region, would be where people started selling insider trading details out just for that extra cash of money to survive this time. Because different people are treating the pandemic in different ways. Some of them have slashed salaries. Some of them have given a forceful work without pay. Some of them have been asked to stay back home, come back after a month, etc. So those are the scenarios where we have often tend to see these kind of activities happening.
I see. Guys, will you please press also the chatting, because we are getting some questions from our audience, which seems to be very involved. So please run through them. I think we have touched most of the questions, but if your eyes see something that you want to speak about, go ahead. Amit, I know you have for sure something to say.
Yeah, so I would just like to give few suggestions to the organization because the thing which we have missed out, the recent sophisticated attack vectors and the malwares that I have noticed are something like this. Agent Tesla is actually creating lots of issues for us. Azure Relt is creating lots of issues. NGRAT is there. Then we have something like Trickbot and Emotet. So these are few 4-5 kind of malwares we need to protect continuously against that because they are changing their signatures, they are changing their hash values, and they are continuously on rise. And then, especially for India, if I can suggest, APT41 is actually becoming quite aggressive since last few weeks, and it is leading when we are attributing these attacks. And this is a Chinese APT, and they are actually disturbing a lot to Indian banks and organizations. There are thousands of attacks that we have observed and noticed. So I think we need to be safeguarded against that. And then there are traditional vulnerabilities. Those are exploited because of the work from home situation. We were not prepared, and there were no secure VPN available, especially when these call centers were running, because we never thought that call center will eventually be running from work from home situation. And these call center guys, actually, they have access of this PI data. So all these banks and the companies those are offering the call center services, they need to take care of a lot because this data is now getting leaked. I have, I think, day before yesterday, I found a couple of companies on dark web. They are selling complete PI database of lots of Indian organizations. It includes your payment details, transaction details, your location history, and everything. They're selling it, and that too in female. So I think this has been happening, and we need to safeguard us.
Amit, I think, thank you for this. I think our audience really would like to hear from you guys as experts. I mean, ransom is all around us. I mean, people are attacked left and right. Do you pay? You don't pay? What to do? They take your... People are lost for answers about it. Please share with us something practical from your experience, from your knowledge. What do we do with this?
See, first of all, I think Yair wants to say something.
You know, it's like dealing with a virus or with kidnap. First, you don't deal with the criminals. You say, I don't pay. But first, you have to prepare to do anything possible not to be kidnapped or take a vaccine, not to take the virus. But after you got it, it's very easy to say not to pay. But if it's your father lying on the hospital and you need to pay for a breathing machine because he didn't took the vaccine, you will pay for the breathing machine in order to keep him alive. So if you can not pay, of course it's better. But if you have the ransomware, and right now it's a decision either to close your company and go home or to pay, you should consider to pay. And that's it. You know, we have to admit we are in a business, and it's a risk. Mm-hmm. And what I wanted to say is a vector of infection from ransomware. You have to consider is your suppliers. Most cases, you take care of your customers and their employees, but the weakest chain, the weakest link, is the suppliers. You have to check them very carefully, more than you check your employees and your customers.
Okay, Jay.
So, yeah, I mean, ransomware has been an age-old question of, do I pay ransom, do I not pay? The most being one of the proliferant CISOs even being arrested for paying a ransom and keeping quiet. So, classic example, yesterday, Germany, one of the hospitals which got hit by ransomware, the emergency life support system for a patient failed. They could not give him access. They tried to ship him off, but unfortunately, he passed away. But that's something which happened just yesterday. Mm-hmm. So, the rule of thumb, which everyone normally follows, is you don't pay ransom. So having come from a financial sector or banking background, especially if you are a dollar clearance house, you could lose your license if you're paying ransom. And there has been some interesting ways people have figured it out. They don't pay it as a direct ransom, but there are companies which do use other channels and means of funding these people in return. But I mean, generally speaking, one of the best things that I could tell you is all your critical data, have it backed up. Make sure you have a running copies. That's where your BCP and your DR plans come into play. Have a proper RPO, RTO. Assess your criticality of your business and look at it from not just for a control segment, but also look at it from an information and data flow methodology as well. So yeah, those are main points I have.
Jay, if you can add, we have a question about the VMware client. Can you answer this as well?
Let me take a look at that one. Most
Most
employees
of the
looking for is it safe? Is it safe to connect through a VMware client, or is there a potential risk? So it again depends. Now, if you're using a VDI-based distribution, depending on how you have configured it and how you have set it up, it can be potentially harmless. Normally, for servers and other critical assets, what we recommend is to go with a solution that offers you a zero trust based approach. Like I don't want to name products, but there are a couple of them in the market available right now, which allows you to have an agent which cross-validates, authenticates, and gives you access to the authorized requests. Apart from that, another way you can actually manage it is by having jump servers rather than giving them a direct access to the VMs.
Sure. Thank you. Yair, we'll come back to you for the question about the man in the middle in a second. Get your answer ready. Amit, can you share some, I want to say juicy story, but something that you can, share with us lately?
So I'll just I'll just share one incident. I found like one of the organization were having a ransomware attack because of their CISOs. So the entry point was the CISO, who was continuously giving webinars, and somebody from, I think, Middle East approached him for a webinar and shared a link to join that webinar. And he clicked on that link, and then he was not able to join that webinar. Eventually, he downloaded that client, and when he was still not able to join that webinar, he actually removed, disabled his firewall and antivirus, because he thought like this is blocking that entire system. And that made this entry point possible to their servers and systems, because his laptop was having all the permissions to access their servers. So the point is, anybody who is actually holding such senior positions, VPs and admins, they need to take care of, especially when they are actually doing any such public facing work. They should not use the same system. They should use different system for sure, because any of their mistake can actually lead to such kind of serious.
Okay, Yair, man in the middle.
Yes. I wanted to add something regarding ransomware. The attitude should be, don't think it will not happen to me. Think it will happen to me, and if it will happen, how much am I willing to pay? And then take this budget and invest in backups, security, and make it not happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's regarding ransomware.
That's
if
a
you
good
don't
advice.
do that, you will pay a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it will not stay on your side, it will be on the criminals. And regarding a man in the middle, I think it's the most problematic risk. But I think the solution is to be as the fourth guy. And you have the client, the server, the man in the middle. If you have a fourth one to see all the three, then you can know there is a man in the middle. That's the only way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are solutions going this direction, and to check everything is the same. No one added between the two parties.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. Do we see any priority changes? Do we see? Oh, I see the MC is about to wave us.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. So we got some questions also in the question and answer session. So if you want to, you can do that, sir.
Yeah, we do that. We go through the questions all the time, and the guys here, they will answer on the fly. Guys, keep on shooting questions. The experts are reading them all the time, and we are answering. If something is not answered, please wave again. Okay?
I think one of the most thought about question right now that I can see is quite interesting. Are remote employees facing serious security risk while working remotely? I guess by the end of this panel discussion, people should be able to answer that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems
But
so.
yeah, I think the answer would be is it depends. It pretty much depends on how you have set up your environment. How do people communicate? What do they have access to? And how are you regulating your data? So some of the people have even mentioned below that using a VPN is secure, not necessarily. So it's not just about cybersecurity that you would need to look at, or you would also need to look at it from a bandwidth perspective. So for an SME or a small business company, it's fine. But imagine running in a conglomerate or a large organization where you normally have your VPN nodes catering for 1,000, 2,000 people. One fine morning, you have 50,000 staff working from home. It's going to be a high impact. So there are challenges, there are pros and cons. Can we be safe working from home? It pretty much depends on us. There's always the I or the human factor in any security incident.
Sure. So, guys, we're getting close to the end. I want you to prepare some tips. You know, your 1 or 2 or 3 major tips about how should we work better. Although we answered most of it, okay, but still people are, you know, still unclear, and it's case by case. It's very individual. But for there's no question about it that businesses need to work and employees need jobs, and they will work remotely, and we will deal with the threats, and hackers will be there forever like Corona. This is the situation right now. But we still need to keep on going. Humanity will not die over because of hackers or because of Corona. We just need to endure. We need to come up with new creative ideas. I think some of the audience here might have to, you know, pitch to you guys some of their ideas, maybe some of their technologies also. So a little bit of tips. How do you see things are, you know, progressing from here on? Amit, if you would like to be the first to answer.
Yeah, sure. So the very first tip that I would like to share with you all is like we need to increase the horizon of our information security policy. It should not be limited to your own organization. Now it should cover the third party and fourth party vendors as well. And you need to rate your all vendors against that risk. And these could be your entry point. You need to check whether they have SSL, whether they have DMARC compliance, whether they have issues in domain hijacking or MITM or email spoofing or any kind of social engineering based attack that could be possible with that organization. You need to rate them as well. Normally we focus with our own organizations and we think like now we are secure enough. But as I have shared initially, like this is the biggest challenge that we have observed, especially with the large organizations, because they don't rate their own vendors, a third and fourth party vendors, and the data is accessed to them as well. This is very first thing that I would like to share. Second, whatever SOCs that we have, security operation controls, we need to take care of all these warnings and advisories seriously, even if it has happened only once. So most of the root cause analysis that I have done, I found like these issues were already reported, but then were not considered and not implemented in time, so that the same can be replicated to other organizations as well. So this is second thing, that this is a continuous process. We can't just do it once in a while or once in a month. It has to be on a continuous basis because the attacks are becoming very sophisticated. The malwares are changing every day, and if we are not updating our SOC controls, we will be always in risk.
Sure. Jay, your tip?
I guess my biggest step would be is to have awareness. Make sure everybody is educated, made aware of it. People go by what goes in WhatsApp, Facebook, or Twitter even. They don't even stop to think and validate the fact. They just believe it and move on. So I guess my number one tip would be to have awareness. Number two is be mindful of what you do. So if you're unsure something is not safe, always consult someone. If not, I would always say reject it. There's no harm in not doing something because you're not comfortable or you're not sure what that leads to. Third one is make sure to actually practice a personal hygiene in terms of what is being done in your environment. whether it's at your home or whether it's in your office. Having that cyber hygiene itself can actually reduce the risks that are associated with it, making sure your machine is up to date, having it backed up. I mean, people like me, we don't even shut down our computers. Like, we shut it down once a week maybe, but practicing that habit of having these patches updated and rebooting it, getting your system up and running, those are some of the good things that can actually reduce the risk substantially.
Okay, thank you for this, Jay. Yair, go ahead. Your tips.
I can give a tip I learned as a pilot in the Air Force Academy. The one that will shoot you down is the one you don't see. So don't think you see everything. Look around all the time, look for the weak spots, and don't think, okay, it's good. If you think it's good, you have to check again to see there's no vulnerability, because the one you don't see, it's the one to shoot you down.
Clear. So guys, I would like to thank you at this time. We're still getting questions. So I want to say to our audience, first of all, thank you for joining us. I hope you've learned from hands-on experience of this brilliant panel. I'm sure you would like to reach out. I'm telling you, we are all on LinkedIn. That would be the easiest way to go. If you want to share any more questions, if you want to maybe offer solutions, let me tell you right off, these solutions need to have some traction. Don't just fire at us ideas. I have an idea for this, for that. We cannot handle all this. I mean, these people are bombarded with technologies and startups left and right. If you have something, you need to have some, credibility. You need to show some customers. You have to show the beginning of something for us to go a step forward and maybe look at it. Still, there is a wish list of everyone, what we are looking for as different institutions. And of course, I think it's also will be shared once you reach out. So we are all on LinkedIn, and please use it. I would like to thank at this time for all three of you, all of our three great panelists for joining us from different places in the world right now. For the Israelis one, I mean, happy New Year. Today is our new Jewish New Year. So congrats, Happy New Year. Thank you for this. I want to thank Cocoon. Jay, you've been with Cocoon from beginning of time. You were always here, and it's great to see you again. Amit, you and I know Cocoon through you, and actually participated in the 2018 together with you and with the great Jobby, who is also around us here somewhere, I hope. And to everyone on Cocoon, to say thank you, Kerala Police, for organizing and for having us. It's a great honor to be here. So farewell to everyone. Be protected.
Thanks, everyone.
Don't hesitate. Accelerate. Say your goodbyes, guys.
Shana Tova.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.